right, and welcome back to Through the Trapdoor. I'm Katie.
And I'm Emily.
And you are tuning into our podcast where we read you Harry Potter fan fiction, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our jumbled nonsense.
But, you know, if you're listening to us, you love Harry Potter just as much as we do.
So I feel like it makes up for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, some exciting news. Looked on our hosting service the other day, which kind of shows us where people are listening in the world. And we have some listeners in Spain.
I'm so excited. When I got that screenshot, I literally screamed, and my husband looked at me like I had 10 heads.
I mean, yeah. Mine thought I was crazy too. I was like, we have listeners in Spain. It's so exciting. I mean, we're excited that all of you listen to us. But we're particularly excited that people now outside of New England are starting to listen to us.
Exactly, because we had all of our friends and family listening and randoms from work.
Yeah, and now there's like actual other people in the world listening. It's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting. It shows that this is a hobby that's not just for us, but for other people.
Well, I mean, it's still a lot for us, but
you
enjoy it too, apparently.
And you know what? We're super thankful for that.
Yes. All right, so this week we're reading chapter 9. And last week, just as a quick recap, they were at Harry's. They met Teddy, who's crazy, and I love it.
Love it.
They ate dinner, and they were teaching them all about Quidditch.
It's a recap of 2 chapters, since we read 2 chapters together last time. So I just realized that one of those episodes hasn't aired yet.
Yep, it's fine. I mean, it will air by the time you're listening to this.
So, obviously it's fine. But it's just in my own little head, it made no sense. And I had to say it out loud for it to make sense.
You're fine.
Alright guys, it is my turn. We're reading chapter 9, The Right Thing. Did you see me, Dad? I was flying on a broom. Yes, Will, I saw you. I even made a goal. Dudley chuckled, unlocking their front door as he watched his son. Will's suit was rumpled, and neatly combed hair was now a tangled mess. His eyes were still wide with excitement from their night at the Potters. Mari was also still buzzing from the night's activities. Mom! Lily and I got to play with dolls, and her dolls move, and her dollhouse works. Little lights turn on, and her dolls have little wands and brooms, and they fly around and do spells, and her picture books move and the story talks as the pages turn themselves, and when the story's over, the book puts itself on the shelf, and her toys move, and they put themselves away, and she never has to clean her room, and Diane looked over at Dudley, trying to keep from rolling her eyes. I'm gonna put Mari to bed. See you upstairs, Diane whispered, careful not to interrupt her daughter's ranting as she made her way up the stairs.
I would have loved a dollhouse that had just like half of those features growing up.
Right? Like light switches?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Check.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Little TVs that would work would be great.
Yeah.
Like everybody wanted the Barbie dream house with the
lights
and the
elevator.
elevator. I did not have that. My dad made me a dollhouse. I don't know what happened to it. Mari's rambling could still be heard by the 2 Dursley men downstairs. Dudley chuckled. She sure is excited to be a friend with Lily. Will nodded, setting his borrowed book on the kitchen counter. She sure is, Dad. Dudley looked over at his son. Another book, Will? Wow, why couldn't you have been this excited to read about history? Because history's boring, Dad. Will rolled his eyes at his father, paging through the leather-bound book. Well, you know, Will, Dudley chuckled, getting a glass from the kitchen cupboard. You'll have to take history of magic class, remember? The smaller blonde sat at the kitchen counter, perched on a stool. Yeah, but it's magical history, Dad.
Same.
That's how I feel. James says they cover things like goblin rebellions and dates certain spells were discovered. Even things like World War I and II. Dudley paused, his brow furrowed. Why would wizards learn about world wars? But Will still shook his head. Not world wars. In the magical world, WW1 and WW2 were what they called the Wizarding Wars. And get this, both wars were started by the same wizard. The older blonde turned on the water faucet. So I'm guessing these wars were important to the magic world. Yeah, Al says that there were a lot of memorials and plaques at Hogwarts to honor those who died in the Second War. Apparently, Al lost an uncle to the war, and Teddy lost both of his parents when he was only a month old. Will paused. Al didn't want to talk about it a whole lot. I can understand that. I wouldn't want to talk about it either.
No.
I'm still bitter that they killed Fred. His mother lost a brother. I'm sure it's hard for them to talk about. Dudley watched his son look over the book. Will nodded. Yeah, plus it's pretty recent. I mean, it isn't recent to me, but historically it's pretty recent. It hasn't even been 20 years since the last Wizarding War. Dudley stopped when Will said it had been 20 years since the last war had ended. It was 20 years ago that he had been rushed from his house because he was in danger, because Harry was in danger, because Harry was in the middle of a war. The Second Wizarding War. Dad? Dudley blinked, bringing his focus back to his son. I'm sorry, Will. I guess I was just lost in thought. I think Harry fought in the last Wizarding War. Will raised an eyebrow. That doesn't sound right, Dad. That would have made him 17. Okay, 17 when the war ended. That would have made him a child soldier. A child soldier. That's what he was. Dudley set his glass on the counter.
I would just like to pause to state the child soldier, that's what he was in Dudley's mind.
Right. He didn't say it out loud.
Yes. I just feel like that needed to be said.
Okay, I agree. I didn't really.
You were focused on reading.
I was very focused on reading. Dudley set his glass on the counter, having not drank from it, his mind still swimming with the information his son continued to tell him. A small beep interrupted both Will from his rant on history and Dudley from his thoughts. Both blondes looked at the handheld phone across the kitchen. A flashing red light on the answering machine told them there was a message waiting for them. Will, could you press the button, please? Dudley asked before finally taking a sip of his water. Will nodded and walked over to the machine, pressing the red button before going back to his seat. Received May 26th at 5:25 p.m. That would have been barely an hour after they had left for the Potters. Hey, Dudley, it's Mom. Dudley looked at the machine. That's right, his mom did promise to call. In all the excitement, Dudley had completely forgotten. You must have just left for dinner. I'll try and keep this short, Dudley. I know that Will is a great boy and that he's always been special. Even when he was an infant and I would watch him, he could light up a room. There was a small chuckle on the recording. I would be holding him and he would start to giggle and then all the lights would turn on in the house. Harry used to do that. Dudley was stunned, to say the least. He didn't think he even heard his mother talk about Harry's magic in a positive light before. I guess I should have told you about Will, but I didn't know how you would take it. Your father hated Harry for his magic, and I didn't want you to hate Will. Dudley turned and looked at his son, who was staring at the machine with wide eyes. And I know I'm not completely innocent when it comes to Harry. I was so blinded by my jealousy towards my sister that I took it out on Harry. Dudley heard a very distinct sniffle on the message. His mother must have been in tears at this point. Please, Dudley, I lost my sister, and my own jealousy pushed me so far away I lost my only nephew. I don't want to lose Will. He's a good boy, just like Harry was. The message had barely finished before Dudley had grabbed the phone, forcibly punching in numbers on the keypad. Dad, is Grandma going to be all right? Father and son shared a look, and Will knew that Dudley didn't have any answer for him. Dudley held the phone to his ear, listening as the other end began to ring. He knew it was late, but even if he had got the message machine, he could at least tell his mother. Hello? Dudley was almost taken aback. His mother almost never answered the phone this late. Had she been crying? Mum? Dudley bit his lip. It's me, Dudley. A sniff was heard on the other end of the line. Oh, Dudley, I'm surprised you called this late. I just got your message. I'm sorry I missed you, Mom. We had just left for dinner at the Potters. You had dinner with Harry? I didn't know you two were speaking. Dudley cleared his throat. Well, He actually contacted us after Will got his letter and invited us to dinner at his house. He has a son Will's age. Harry has a child? 3 actually. 13, 11, and 9. They're all wonderful. You would have loved it there, Mom. Another sniff, this one longer. No doubt I would. Lily once invited me over to her house. I refused because your father refused to meet them. She was dead a week later. After this, Dudley heard a strangled sob from his mother's end of the line. Mom, are you going to be all right? Dudley asked, ignoring the imploring look on Will's face. I'll be all right, Dudley. Those were his mother's words, but Dudley knew something was wrong. Before he could take this conversation any longer, there was one nagging issue in the back of his mind. How's Dad doing with Will? Has he come around yet? That was apparently the worst thing he could have said, as on the other end of the line, Petunia Dursley fell apart, sobbing loudly into the phone. He's gone, Dudley. He left.
I don't feel like he would just up and leave.
I don't know, he might. He up and left and moved this family all over creation to try to avoid letters for Harry.
I know, but he had Petunia with him. She left with him in the car. So I don't think that he would have up and left his house. I think if anything, if Petunia was oh no, it's our son, I still need to speak to our son, and really push the issue, he'd be okay, go live with your son, get out of my house.
Right. You know what? Yeah, you're right.
I don't think that he would have left. I think if anything, he would have kicked her out.
Or he would have left and said, don't be here when I get back.
Yeah.
Which is probably what he did. He left to go clear his mind and get away from everything.
Mm-hmm.
And just completely cut himself off. It's just don't be here when I get back.
Yeah, that kind of situation.
I think that's what is more likely what happened. A small gasp reached Dudley's ears as he looked at Will. Apparently, the young wizard had heard everything his grandmother was saying through the speaker on the phone. Mom, what do you mean he left? He left me. He left you and Diane and Will and Mari. I don't know what to do, Dudley. Did he say why he left? Dudley was trying to breathe evenly, to keep calm, and above all, not frighten Will. Petunia Dursley sniffled again, trying to stop the tears. He said it was my fault. It was all my family that kept producing magical people. I tried to tell him it had nothing to do with me, but oh, Dudley, what do I do? Dudley grit his teeth, not saying anything for the longest time. How dare his own father abandon him like that? Abandon his own wife. Over what? A stupid letter? The fact that Will would be able to do things that Vernon Dursley could never even hope of achieving? And to top it all off, he blamed his own wife for something she had no control over. It made Dudley's blood boil. It would also make my blood boil. I would be livid.
I'd be so mad.
I am praising Dudley right now because he is so calm.
He's keeping it together very well.
I would not be even remotely this calm. Dudley, Mom, Dad's made his choice to leave. Only he can make his choice to come back, Dudley finally said. But, no buts, Mom. I know you love Dad, but he made his choice to leave you and us as a family. After all the years of marriage and all those years we spent together as a family, I won't go chasing after him, and neither should you, Mom. Wonderful advice.
It really is.
Wonderful. But, Dudley, you have to understand, he's just so overwhelmed by everything. His whole world has been overturned. Dudley cut his mother off. The same goes for Diane, and yet Diane managed to not only accept her son, but spend the past few hours swapping recipes with a witch. Dad isn't thinking about you or Will. He's being selfish, and if he wants to be selfish, he can be selfish all he wants, alone. Dudley, this isn't easy for him. Mom, if doing the right thing was easy, everyone would be doing it. Dudley couldn't remember a time when he had admonished his father like he was doing right that instant. The way I see it, Mom, Dad has 2 choices. He can either let go of his hatred and be part of this family, or he can be selfish by himself.
I mean, those are valid points.
I think they're exactly his only options.
Yeah.
Petunia Dursley was quiet for the longest time before whispering, I don't want to be alone. Fair. I also would not want to be alone.
No, I would not want that either.
Dudley relaxed at the sound of his mother's quiet voice. I'm going to pick you up tomorrow, Mom. You're moving in with us. Oh, Dudley, I couldn't. You already have so much to worry about with Will. What are you talking about, Mom? I don't worry about Will. The entire family is enjoying every minute of this process. Dudley looked at Will, resting a hand on his son's shoulder. We'd like you to be a part of it, Mom. Even though you weren't a part of Harry's life, you can still be a big part of Will's.
Dudley, you have grown so much as a person, and it is amazing.
Even just in these 9 chapters.
Yeah, like, it's amazing.
Beautiful.
I
and
love
I'm
it.
here for it.
Oh, yeah.
A pause hung in the air. All right. Great. I'll pick you up around 5 tomorrow after I get off work. I'll see you then. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dudley. Finally hanging up the phone, Dudley let out a slow breath. He didn't imagine doing the right thing could be so exhausting. Well, it often is.
It really is.
Because doing the right thing is often the harder thing to do.
Yeah, and you're just physically, mentally
Emotionally,
drained.
all of it. Dudley looked down at Will. The small wizard hugged his dad around the middle. I'm proud of you, Dad. Slowly, Dudley wrapped his arms around his son, the way a father's supposed to treat their sons. Dudley couldn't help but think.
End of chapter 9.
It was super emotional.
It really was.
I always get this overly emotional chapters, and I like it because I get to be emotional for a reason.
It was great. I
It
loved
really
this
was.
chapter.
It was a good chapter. Short, sweet, to the point.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes.
A nice one. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Through the Trapdoor 16 and on our Twitter at The Trapdoor 16.
Because Through the Trapdoor was too long for Twitter.
Yep.
And you can email us at throughthetrapdoor16@gmail.com with any story suggestions, or if there's anything you think that we need to see, whether it's a meme or another fan fiction, or if you have anything to say to us.
Bye.
Bye.